I was 24 when I met him again. It's funny how life has a way of bringing people back into your world, even when you least expect it. A decade had passed since I last saw him. 10 years filled with growth, change, heartache, and the everyday challenges of life. We had been inseparable as teenagers, the best of friends, and then somehow we had drifted apart, as people do. Our friendship was one of those rare, deep connections that you never forget, but the timing wasn't right back then. We were young, naive, and unaware of the impact we had on each other. His name was Jake. I still remember the first time we met back in high school. He was the boy in the back of the classroom, the one who barely said anything but whose presence seems to fill the room. He was quiet, thoughtful, and carried an air of mystery that I found endlessly fascinating. He wasn't like the other guys I knew. He didn't care about popularity or fitting in. He was one of those people who would rather spend time on his own, observing the world rather than engaging in it. Somehow, we became friends. Not the surface-level kind of friends, but the kind that knew each other's hearts. We shared everything, the good, the bad, the dreams, and the insecurities. I was always the one who talked too much, and he was the one who listened, offering quiet wisdom in ways I never knew I needed. Our friendship was effortless, natural, and yet I couldn't help but wonder if there was something more there. I thought about him often, and when we were together, it felt like I was home. But we were both young, and life had a way of pulling us in different directions. Jake was always more focused on the bigger picture, while I was busy trying to figure out who I was in a world full of expectations. Our paths diverged, and eventually we lost touch. I still thought about him from time to time, wondering what had happened, where he had gone, but I never reached out. Time had passed, and we both grew into different people. Fast forward 10 years. I was sitting at a coffee shop in my hometown, a place I frequented on lazy weekends when I needed to clear my head. I had moved back to the city recently, after several years of living in different places for work. I wasn't sure why I had come back. There was something nostalgic about it, something that made me feel like I could reclaim a part of my past, or perhaps just take a break from the busy pace of my life. I had just ordered my coffee and was about to find a seat when I saw him. There he was, sitting in the corner by the window, just like he used to. I froze for a moment, unsure of whether my eyes were playing tricks on me. But no, it was Jake. It was unmistakable. The same dark tousled hair, the same thoughtful expression on his face as he stared out the window, lost in thought. My heart skipped a beat. It had been 10 years, but seeing him again felt like no time had passed at all. The feelings I had buried, the ones I had convinced myself were long gone, came rushing back in a tidal wave. I hadn't expected this. I hadn't even known I was still carrying the weight of our connection. Before I could convince myself to turn around and leave, Jake looked up and our eyes met. For a moment, everything stood still. He didn't say anything, and I didn't either. We just stared at each other, as if trying to process the reality of this moment. And then, without thinking, I walked over to him. "Jake," I said softly, my voice trembling a little. "Emma," he replied, his voice equally unsure but warm. I can't believe it's really you." We both stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do, how to bridge the years that had passed. And then, without warning, he pulled me into a hug. It was familiar, comforting, and it felt like everything had fallen into place again, just as it had been all those years ago. When we finally pulled apart, he smiled at me, his eyes softer than I remembered. "How have you been?" he asked. I could feel the lump in my throat. It had been so long since I had heard his voice, since I had seen that warmth in his eyes. "I've been good. Busy, life. But I've missed you, Jake." He nodded, his gaze dropping to the floor for a moment. "I've missed you too. A lot more than I realized, honestly." We both sat down at the table, and for the next few hours we talked. We talked about everything. Our lives, our mistakes, the things we had done and the things we hadn't. Jake had grown into a successful writer, someone who had found his passion and made a career out of it. I had been working in the corporate world, but I'd always felt like something was missing, like I hadn't found my true calling. It was strange to realize how much we had changed, but at the same time, how much we were still the same. As the conversation flowed, I found myself drawn to him in a way I hadn't expected. It wasn't the heady rush of the first love, but something deeper, something more mature, more profound. I had never really stopped caring about him. Even after all these years, even after everything that had happened, he was still the one person who had understood me like no one else had. After hours of talking, we said our goodbyes, both of us with that familiar ache in our hearts, the one that comes when you realize that some connections never really leave you. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew this was a turning point. I had seen Jake again, and now I had to figure out where we would go from here. Over the next few weeks, we kept in touch. Slowly, cautiously, we began spending more time together. We walked through parks, grabbed coffee, and even went to our old favorite spots in the city. The chemistry between us was undeniable, but I was afraid. I had spent so many years convincing myself that I had moved on, that we were just a part of my past, and I was scared to open that door again. But as we spent more time together, I realized something important. The love I had for Jake wasn't something I could bury. It wasn't something that could be erased by time or distance. It had always been there, quietly waiting for us to find each other again. I didn't want to let fear hold me back anymore. One evening, after dinner at a cozy little restaurant we used to visit, Jake walked me to my car. He paused before I got in, looking at me with that familiar intensity I had missed so much. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice softer than usual. "I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've realized something. I've always cared about you, Emma. I always have, even when we were apart, and now I think I'm still in love with you." The words hung in the air between us, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. My heart raced, but there was no hesitation, no fear, only the overwhelming certainty that this was what I had always needed. "I love you too, Jake," I said, my voice shaky but honest. "I never stopped. I've always carried you with me, even when I didn't know how to make sense of it." He reached for my hand, his fingers warm against mine. "So, what happens now?" he asked, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. I smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. "We take it one step at a time. We don't rush. We don't have to have all the answers. But we don't run away from this." And so we began again, slowly, cautiously, but this time with open hearts and clear intentions. We rebuilt our connection, this time not as teenagers, but as adults who had learned what it meant to love, to hurt, and to heal. The years apart had been difficult, but they had taught us that some loves are meant to be revisited, rekindled, and nurtured. This time, there would be no running away. This time, we would face the future together.